24 years. That's how long Brazil had waited. 24 years of being the greatest football nation on earth and watching other countries lift the trophy that felt like it belonged to them. By 1994, the weight of that absence had become something else entirely. It had become hunger. Brazil in 1994 was not a country at peace with itself. The economy had been ravaged by decades of inflation so severe that prices changed twice a day. A generation of Brazilians had grown up not knowing if their money would be worth anything by Friday. The political class had just survived an impeachment. Institutions were fragile, trust was thin. And yet, there was football. Football was the one place where Brazil still knew exactly who it was. But even that identity had been under pressure. Brazil had not won a World Cup since 1970, the year of Pelé. Since then, 4 tournaments, 4 exits, each one carrying its own particular kind of pain. By the time 1994 arrived, the question being asked was, what if Brazil had already had its moment? What if that was it? The 1994 team was not supposed to be beautiful. Pereira had built something that went against everything Brazil believed about itself, a team built on defensive structure and discipline. The Brazilian press hated it. The fans were uneasy. Where was the jogo bonito? Where was the samba? But inside that team, something else was building. Romario had returned from Barcelona carrying a point to prove. He arrived in the United States with something cold in his eyes. Bebeto was his opposite, emotional, expressive, a father who played like he was running toward something, not away from it. Together they would become one of the most devastating partnerships in World Cup history. Brazil moved through the group stage with a quiet efficiency. They were not spectacular. They were surgical. Romario scored. Bebeto scored. They were a machine. When Bebeto scored against the Netherlands in the quarterfinals, he cradled an invisible baby in his arms. Romario and Mazinho joined him. In that one gesture, the whole world fell in love with this Brazilian team. They were not the Brazil of 1970, but they were a Brazil that had learned to carry its emotion inward. Then came the final. Brazil against Italy, Pasadena. 120 minutes of almost nothing. For 120 minutes, the two most celebrated football nations in history played one of the most forgettable finals ever contested. And then came the penalties. Baresi stepped up first for Italy, one of the greatest defenders in history. He missed. Taffarel went the right way. He saved it. The dream was alive. Then Roberto Baggio, the man who had carried Italy to that final almost alone, walked to the spot. He struck it over the bar. And Brazil, after 24 years, was champion of the world. The images from Brazil that night were not just of joy, they were of release. 24 years of accumulated tension poured into the streets of every city in the country simultaneously. Brazil had not just won a football tournament, it had answered a question about itself. The team that won in 1994 had done so through discipline, qualities that didn't fit the mythology Brazil had built. The country celebrated the victory, but quietly resented the way it had arrived. They wanted 1970 again, next week, 1998. The night Brazil discovered that winning isn't everything.